Hi guys, and welcome to the channel. To any of you who are new, which I expect there's gonna be a decent amount of you based on the title of this video. As you can see by it, I'm gonna be talking extensively about my experience going to a gender therapist slash psychologist who deals with trans people in a very homophobic and transphobic Eastern European Balkan country. And some additional context surrounding it, but that's basically gonna be the gist of it. Now, the aspect of me living in an Eastern European country is important because, as probably many of you either presume or know, Eastern Europe is not the most progressive place in the world. And the part in which I live, especially so. I live in the Balkans. So it's not really a great place to be any kind of LGBT person, and especially the trans part of it. So that's why for so long I've been struggling with how to actually do this, how to transition, and whether I should move out of the country or whether I should do it here and take on all the risks that I would be facing if I do that here in this very homophobic and transphobic place. And it's been a big struggle for me. Thanks to the YouTube channel, it's been alleviated because I've gotten support from you guys, either some direct, like by my good friend Yuri, or some more indirect, like some of you guys who are donating and subscribing to like my Patreon. That has been great help. But it's still been an issue in the back of my head that has sometimes really made it hard for me to continue doing this and continue just living. That being until the beginning of this year, or actually not the beginning of this year, the last like couple of weeks of December, because with the year ending and me still basically being stuck at the same point of my transition as I was like 5 years ago when I first realized that I was trans, it made me really depressed, to the point where I felt like I had to make some kind of step going forward, otherwise I couldn't take it anymore, if you get what I mean. So thoughts started floating in my head, like what steps could I actually take right now? And the one that kind of overwhelmingly won in my head was telling my mom that I was trans. Because potentially, if she didn't freak out and accepted me, she could help me move forward with this. And luckily, that's exactly what happened. Like, she didn't freak out. She overall understood what I've been going through and how hard it has been for me. And for the most part, she basically had the attitude of you do you, which overall I'm satisfied by, because I was not necessarily expecting anything worse than that, because I know my mom. She's not that kind of person. I've told her certain things before that I've been kind of scared of telling her, and she has always kind of taken it well. Like, she has been aware of me buying female clothes in some way, shape, or form. Like, she has seen my bras that I've had in my wardrobe before, and she has chosen not to talk to me about it. So clearly she was somewhat aware, and that is also what made it easier for me to tell her, because in many ways she probably already kind of knew about it. So I told her, and luckily a couple of days afterwards as well, it led to me finally having the means to go to a psychologist who not necessarily specializes but frequently has clients who are trans people. And he is actually, I think, the most famous like doctor in my country who deals with these kind of issues, because he has talked on TV many times about uh, uh, transgender people and gender issues, and he also defended the controversial Istanbul Convention, which maybe some of you are aware of or not, but it was a convention which was supposed to protect like women's from like domestic violence or something along those lines. But the way it was worded to mean that anybody who presented as female, who identified as female, and not by some other definition of a woman. And that kind of caused a lot of strife, and it was propagandized into something far more nefarious, as if it was like gender ideology being thrust upon these conservative Eastern European countries. It's kind of a topic for a completely different discussion. But like he has talked about those things, so I knew he was aware of. He has worked with these kind of people, so I was hopeful that he will actually be understanding and nice and accepting. Like, I felt safe going to him and talking to him about it. I didn't feel terrified in any way, shape, or form. So I went. And actually, by going there, not only that was not the only big step that I have made in my transition, because as a way to kind of seem more serious about my feelings of being trans and my wish to transition, I actually dressed more feminine than I usually do, because I already kind of dress semi androgynous. Like, I already wear female clothes all the time. It's just that there are clothes that pass for male clothes. But in this case in particular, I dressed with the most female-leaning androgynous clothes that I have, which basically meant sneakers, very tight blue jeans, a shoulderless blouse, obviously I had a bra, and most importantly, a jacket that is tied around the waist and that flares out afterwards. That is a jacket that I love and I've wanted to wear for so long. And I cannot even begin to describe how affirming it felt to wear that jacket outside. It felt so nice and so good. And I kind of didn't realize it at the moment there. Maybe a couple of moments as I was walking through the city as I was going to the psychiatrist's place. But it really hit me how nice it felt to be out like that on the following day, when I was going out in my local town where I live, and I obviously here dressed far more masculine in comparison, so I dressed with like my normal manly jacket, and it just felt wrong, you know? So now that I've kind of like went out dressed more femininely, I just feel also more comfortable dressing more feminine, even in my YouTube videos, because usually I still kind of felt a little bit of a kind of fear of presenting feminine in videos which are supposed to be like targeting a male demographic, like my TMNT reactions or my any cartoon reaction basically. But now that I've presented outside relatively femininely, I just feel fine. Like, I don't care. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I'm gonna present like who I actually am going forward. But yeah, I know it's taken a while to tell this story, but I just want to make it every detail clear, so you understand the kind of mental space that I am in right now. So I went to the psychiatrist, I sat down, and I was very direct with what my situation was, that I am trans, that I've known about it in some way, shape, or form for as long as I can remember, and that I really want to start transitioning. In particular, I want to start the hormonal therapy, because I can take or leave taking my changing my gender like legally in terms of the law or whatever, but I do want really to start the HRT because I don't want my body to become more masculine than it already is, you know? And right off the bat, the kind of questions that he started asking me kind of started to rub me the wrong way, and I already started to get worried about the kind of person he actually is. Because previously, I had read a review or a comment by somebody online who was talking about whether this guy, this psychologist, is a good psychologist to go to as a trans person. And there were some comments which were kind of critical of him and the kind of thinking that he has. And the second he asked me the first question, I kind of instantly understood that those criticisms were correct. Because I think the first question he asked me was literally like, what do you mean you feel like a girl? How can you feel like a girl if you never have been a girl? Like, that's kind of basically the gist of what his first question towards me was. Like, what he asked me what kind of issue that I'm facing, and how is changing my gender going to solve it. And I honestly couldn't really muster anything more than I just feel uncomfortable, constantly uncomfortable presenting masculine, looking masculine, being a guy. I just feel it feels wrong. Whereas whenever I present in any way feminine, and the more feminine that I present, it just feels like everything is right. Everything is how it should be. Everything is right in the right places, you know? And he kind of couldn't understand. He kept poking me to kind of break it down even further, but I can't. I'm already not really good with words. You might get the wrong impression based on my YouTube videos, but I'm not necessarily that good with words, especially under this kind of like pressure and stress. Even though I wasn't necessarily stressed, just kind of like having to really quickly muster an answer to a question like that, it's hard for me. So ultimately, that meeting, in terms of actually helping me understand my identity, my gender identity, and exactly what I want to do, didn't really help. In fact, I would say it kind of confused me more, because I feel like for most of the session, he kind of gaslit me and manipulated me a little bit. Because he tried to say that my transgenderness was maybe potentially caused by bad experiences that I faced from male figures in my life, like potentially like my grandfather or my father. And to that, I would say it's not wrong, in the sense that the experiences that I've experienced that involve my grandfather or my father are certainly bad, and I certainly want to escape them, in the sense that even if I wasn't trans, I would not want to be in any way, shape, or form associated in any way with what they are, you know? Like, I don't want to be in any way, shape, or form a similar person to them. But that on its own, it's not enough to, like, cause my transness or whatever. It is definitely, like, an aspect that causes me to dislike masculinity more, I guess. But it's not the reason why I'm trans. I'm trans because that's who I am. That's who I am up here. My body is just like my clothes. It's how the world sees me, and though I want the world to see me how I see myself. So, to put it short, his views of gender and transgenderness are very old school-ish, which again is not surprising. everything in Eastern Europe, and especially where I live in the Balkans, is like 15 years behind, including, I guess, gender psychology. So I'm not necessarily surprised in that regard. I very much rolled my eyes quite a few times uh, during the experience, and he did spout a lot of pseudoscientific bullshit that I frequently hear from my father, which definitely bothered me quite a lot because I didn't think that he was gonna be that far in that regard, but it is what it is. Um, some red flags especially started popping up when he even mentioned like gender ideology by its actual term, and even brought up fucking Jordan Peterson. Like he definitely is kind of like anti-woke. The good thing is though, he still kind of has his heart in the right place, if that makes any sense. Because regardless of whatever he said in that regard, like whatever he said when we were discussing my transness, what has caused it and everything, which by the way, I just want to say, he thinks that transness is caused by something, that you learn it, which in retrospect is kind of another red flag, but I didn't necessarily pick up on it as we were doing the talking. Because he couldn't understand, I guess, how did I suddenly start having the feelings of wanting to be a girl and wanting to have breasts at the young age of like 8. Because I talked to him about how probably like the first time where I really realized that I wanted to be a girl, or had the wish to be a girl, was when I was like about 8 years old, and I had a dream where me and a female classmate of mine, who at the time I had a little bit of a crush on, switched bodies. And whenever I was in her body, I felt great. Everything felt right. Everything felt nice. And I guess he couldn't understand how could I know how exciting the feeling or how good it feels to be a girl with breasts at the age of 8. Fuck if I know. But that's how it started in a way. It wasn't something beaming up the information about being trans into my head. It was just that dream which opened the floodgates. It's not like before that there weren't any signs of me potentially being trans, because there was the fact that when I was like, I don't know, 4 years old, it was very much like some of my earliest memories. My older female cousins would dress me up in my mom and aunt's old female clothes, and I would go around parading dressed as a girl, and everybody would laugh and I would enjoy it. That's one of the earliest memories. You could say that that's not necessarily like a sign of transness, but it could be, you know? And another more major one is that I remember when, again, not that far off from that period, probably maybe a year or two after, I remember that once I told my mom that I was really excited and I couldn't wait to grow up, to start growing breasts of my own. And again, you can kind of constitute that as just being just a child not understanding the difference between men and women, or something along those lines. But it could also be the fact that my brain knows who I am and knows how it's supposed to go, you know? But I guess that's just not something that this psychologist could just understand. Like the closest thing to what he was, I guess, imagining about something influencing me to be trans would be a certain TV series that I remember watching in like 2011, which was called Vice Versa, and it was like a French TV series which had a boy who got struck by lightning and basically was given the power to turn into a girl when he touched his elbow. Maybe some of you have seen it. But it's a series that I really, really enjoyed at the time. But the thing is, my feelings of wanting to be a girl predated that series. That series was just something that satisfied those feelings, you know? But yeah, that's the closest to something influencing me. So yeah, as I was saying, his heart is in the right place, despite his kind of like rotted brain at times. He still said that whatever I decide to do, he will help me with it. Like if I decided to go through and like go for like a legal gender change and hormonal therapy and everything, he would help me. He would even direct me to a lawyer who I have to first go to if I want to start hormone therapy, because that's the process over here. And he also has a friend who is an endocrinologist. I think that's the word. Um, who also would be potentially the one who would be prescribing me the hormones and stuff. So, yeah, I guess he's kind of the definition of a libertarian in a way. At least the kind of current definition of libertarian, because libertarian is supposed to kind of mean something along more of the lines of like an anarchist, but nowadays it basically means uh, a conservative who is pro personal freedom. So yeah, he's very much a conservative guy, but who supports the personal freedom for people to choose and do whatever they want with their own bodies, I guess. So he's willing to help me. And the good thing is that, as far as I know, I don't have to go to like sessions for like 2 years and present as my gender for 2 years before I can start the process of transitioning. I can just start it. And the process basically is that I have to. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but let's just use it for the sake of the explanation. I'm basically supposed to sue the government to allow me to change my name and my gender. And the government has certain requirements for the legal gender change, like psychological evaluation, which confirms that I do actually like am suffering from gender dysphoria, and that the only way to alleviate said suffering is the legal gender change in the beginning of a hormonal therapy. Um, so yeah, the process is actually more simple than I thought it was going to be in that regard. But the annoying thing is that there's literally no information about the actual steps anywhere online. Even foundations that are like dealing with LGBT people do not really spell out that kind of information, which I don't understand why. It's the thing that has been bothering me the most ever since I realized that I was trans, because I obviously over the years tried to learn what am I supposed to do, like what is my pathway if I want to do it while still living in this country and not moving to some other country or something. And I couldn't find any information, so basically I had to guess based on the experiences that you go through in other countries, and by sending emails to said foundations for an explanation, which is where I first learned that you have to like sue the government. So yeah, the long and short of it is that I'm in a way back to square one, because I basically right now need money to continue with the transition, because I need money so I can move out and safely transition and not have to deal with my very shitty dad, who is like very homophobic and very transphobic, and there's no way he's gonna accept me. I at least think it's gonna be very hard in comparison to my mom. And I need the money to sue the government, which is I think about like 500 or 600 euros. It might end up being as far. There's also the fact that I potentially just in case, want to save up and freeze some thing, so I can, if I want to, I can have children in the future. Which I don't know whether I'll go that way. It depends on how life goes. Since the main pressure for having children is my dad, if he stops pressuring me or we lose connection, then I won't really have a pressure in that regard. But it is still something that I want to do, and there's another like $500 which are gonna go over there because that's how expensive it is. And I guess I also will need the money for the endocrinologist afterwards. So yeah, there's some decent amount of money that I need, but the first and foremost thing that I need is to make sure that I can have children if I want to in the future. That's my first step now going forward. But yeah, I don't know when we're gonna keep moving forward or how I'm gonna keep moving forward, because my only way of really creating revenue is from my YouTube channel, and if you guys support me, which I want to thank you for, but expectedly, in a way, it's not really been growing as fast as I would have hoped, and I've been predominantly stuck because of that. And some of you probably will argue, well, go and get a job. And I've tried. I've asked offers for jobs. But the thing is, it's not really simple. Because even if we ignore everything else, if I do go and get the job and start making money, and I have money to pay for that, for those stuff, once I start the transition, there's a very big likelihood that I could get fired for that. At least I don't want to take the risk, and I don't want to necessarily take the risk of publicly transitioning, aka like working in a department store and like transitioning at the same time, because facing people all the time like that would be very tough for me in general, with the kind of introverted person that I am, and potentially me having Asperger as well. And on top of that, being trans is just going to complicate stuff way too much. So that's not really an option for me, but I've still tried to get a job, but it always kind of turns out to not to work, because either the pay is way too low for it to be worth it, because I still have to pay for like rent and stuff, and I barely have any money left off for my transition. So what's the point, especially because doing said job would also take me away from doing YouTube, so you guys are not really gonna get much of or any content, which I don't think we will be happy with. So I'm kind of stuck in that regard, you know? So I'm basically hoping that this year my YouTube is gonna pop off more or less. Not necessarily to like some crazy heights, but enough to actually start moving forward and moving out and starting the transition properly. So if you want to contribute to that and help out, I would greatly appreciate it, but I don't want to make you feel like you have to or guilt trip you, because that's just going to be way too heavy on my conscience, you know? I don't want to feel like you have to support me, you have to go out of your way to give me your money to keep me alive or something. I don't want to guilt trip you, like I said. But yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much been my experience for the last like 2 or 3 weeks. We'll see how we're gonna go moving forward, but for now at least I'm semi-satisfied, because I've made at least a step or two forward. Like, I've made movement, however small it may be. You know what they say, slow and steady wins the race. And I personally also have kind of a catchphrase that keeps me going at times, if I gotta be honest, more so than I would have thought. And that catchphrase is Nanto Kanaro. It's Japanese for "it will work out somehow." The logic of which is basically, as long as you try your best and you actually try, whatever you want to achieve will work out. That's also basically the idea behind my YouTube channel. Like, it's eventually going to be successful. It's just a matter of how much time it's going to take. So yeah, I don't know. And like I said, I've made a step. Even if it means that I have to make like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, I've still made 1 step forward, and that's the most important thing. But yeah, I think that's all I have to cover. If you guys have any questions in regards to this, as long as it's nothing like too personal or whatever, I'm happy to like answer, because I also need somebody to talk to about this, because regardless of like some of his shitty beliefs, it was actually really nice to talk to somebody openly about my experiences and what thoughts I've had and what I want and everything. So that felt nice. So honestly, regardless of his shitty beliefs, he definitely has made me interested to go to a psychologist for some other things that I'm dealing in my life, like the aforementioned Asperger, or however you're supposed to pronounce it, because I'm pretty sure I do have that. It's either that or ADHD, maybe both, but I definitely have one of those things, that's for sure. There's no way that I don't. I would be surprised if I don't. So yeah, mental health is important, yo. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Before we end it, I do want to give a huge shout out to my currently 4 patrons on Patreon: Omar Bridgman, Deadpool, Corby Dead, and Tia Rose Gelatly. Thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. They have decided to support me, have continued to support me in such a long time. Hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much. Another thing that I also want to tell you guys before we end this video is something about me that some of you may or may not already know, that will also explain why do I look and dress the way that I do in my videos. That thing being the fact that I am trans. In particular, I am somewhere between a non-binary person and a trans woman, though I am unsure at the moment and probably won't be sure until I talk to a professional who deals with trans people. But that is where the reason why I'm telling you all this comes. I need your help. Due to the fact that I live in a homophobic and transphobic Eastern European country, with a family that won't really ever accept the fact that I'm trans if they ever found out, it's not really feasible or easy for me to transition here with minimal to no repercussions. So that's why I would really appreciate any kind or any amount of support that you guys can give me with this. That said, I don't want to guilt trip you or anything. I don't want you to feel like you have to help me. So if you don't want to, or you don't have the means to help out, that's okay. Don't feel bad. I just want you to know that it would be greatly appreciated if you did help me get out of this situation. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask me, and thank you for hearing me out. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, check out the links in the description to my Wattpad, where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. Kind of. And if you don't enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi account, where you can pledge your support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!